I'm going to go without slides for this conversation. I thought I'd change it up a little bit. That's the sort of the fancy title. The real title I wanted to put on this slide was a conversation about heavy metal and unicorns. And you'll understand why when I go through this. So a little about me then. So GE Digital, we are the kind of digital arm of one of the most recognizable logos around the world for industrial manufacturing of different things from healthcare to aviation to power generation systems. So we provide digital technology that enables our businesses and now our customers and their customers to be able to enhance what they do themselves and to provide new services to their own customers as well. So when we look at digital transformation, what does it really mean? What is it about? We've been through and are still going through digital transformation, and it has a huge impact on the way you go about your business, and it unlocks a whole new world of potential. I'll come back to unicorns. Who here works with or knows about unicorns? A couple of hands, okay. Anybody here afraid of unicorns? If not, you should be. So what is a unicorn? Because some people are looking a bit, what the hell is this guy doing on stage talking about unicorns? A unicorn is a privately held startup that is valued over $1 billion. And you have a decacorn, which is over 10 billion, and a hecacorn, which is over 100 billion, okay? These are fairly significant industry disrupting technologies, industry disrupting companies that we need to be aware of and either embrace or be ready for being disrupted out of our own organizations. Okay, so with that then, so these disruptive change agents of digital transformation, I know I'm playing a bit of market terminology bingo here. Do we want to replicate what they do? Because clearly they're successful at what they're doing. So when we go through digital transformation, do we want to be these guys? And the answer really is no, we don't. Okay, we don't need to replicate a startup community to be a digital transformation for our own industry. That's not going to help us in the long run. Digital transformation at its very heart is change management. Okay, back to change management 101, people, process, technology. Okay, you've got to get the right combination of all of those items to be successful in transforming your businesses, your industries, and preparing for Brexit or whatever other thing comes along in the future that'll be just as scary and prophetic. And so given that, what do we do in order to sort of leverage ourselves down this path? What are the 3 areas that we're going to come up with? And, you know, if anybody turns around and tells you that there are ideals of 3 steps to success, they're selling you snake oil because there's no guarantee of success with any particular route you want to go down this path. But there are 3 areas, and it always comes down to 3. 3 is a good number, right? There are 3 areas that I look at when I look to my customers and my different industries on things that they can start to do and look internally when they start to say, well, I need to go down to, you know, this transformation path. Where do I start? And so the first of those is innovation. We've talked about it a lot already today. Companies and the UK as a whole, we're a very innovative group, okay? You know, we've poured tons and tons of money and research into innovation in technologies, STEM activities through universities and colleges. Our academia, our innovation is our pedigree. It's our currency on the global market. We should be proud of that and leverage that within our sort of brand, if you like, as UK industrials. And that's what we want to sell to the market. So post-Brexit, we're an innovative community, and we need to really, really draw upon that. That comes with challenges. Innovation brings challenges, you know, not least regulation, risk, cost. You know, where do you start to use these sorts of different capabilities that we're coming up with in the most efficient way? And you've got to lay out your roadmaps to understand when is the best time to do that kind of thing. The second area we learn to look at is kind of your speed to market. So great, I've come up with this fantastic new thing, it does X, Y, Z, whatever it may be, it's going to make me 10 times more efficient or whatever. When do I bring that to market? So there are 2 terms that people like to use. First mover. Okay, so if you have first mover advantage, that means you get to define the market. You get to own that section of market, and hopefully you own it for long enough that you get the foothold in the market and continue to grow. But then along comes the kind of, you know, the seconds. Those who've sort of seen that first mover and they said, hey, I could do a bit of that. I could invent my own version of that and make it fantastic, and it'll be better because The technology is that much more refined. The market's been tested. There have been lessons learned. So now I'm going to come in. I've got lower risk. I can come in at lower cost, and I can overtake. I can disrupt that first mover. So there are pros and cons to being in both areas. And the gap between when the first mover comes to market versus when the second comes is going to determine how you're going to get disrupted in the future. So if you stay there long enough without that second coming along, if you really don't give anybody room for maneuver in that, you're less likely to get disrupted. But again, come back down to there's no such thing as too big to fail. Everybody should be aware of that. And the third real sort of space that we like to look at is one we're never going to avoid in these kind of conversations. Industry 4.0. What does Industry 4.0 actually mean? It's a bit of a catch-all term. Certain countries around the globe are trying to define standards as to what it actually comes around. Germany is fantastic at doing that. They're building standards upon which Factory 4.0 and smart technology and so on and so forth can be used and built against. But that's not commonplace. We're all sort of finding our way down this path. But what does it really mean then? So when you look at it, it's actually the single vision of your manufacturing space, of your supply chain, or of your value network. That single source of truth. Sounds a little bit like automation and control systems. That's great on just one part of the overall process, but what we're looking at in Industry 4.0 is the entirety of your value network. How do you connect all of those pieces together in a way that you can sort of push and poke it to find out what's the most optimal way to go about your day-to-day business? You have goals you're trying to achieve in your manufacturing. How do I ensure I achieve those if my supply chain is all scrogged up down, in Brazil or something, or spare parts coming in from Germany or Italy, wherever it may be, okay? You should be able to know that on a live basis so that your operations that you have ongoing on a day-to-day basis can be manipulated. You can optimize your process through. That's going to help you manage your costs. It's going to help you reduce waste out of the overall process. And hopefully we can start to improve our overall view of our business so that we can start achieving things like CO2 targets or any of the kind of, the increase in vehicle production rates or any of those things. So Industry 4.0 is not a panacea. Nothing's going to be a solve-all for this one. But there's a lot of technology in there. Technology has never really been the problem here. Technology is ready with us today to be able to address a lot of the problems we're seeing, but what we're seeing is that it's process that gets in the way a lot. We're trying to get the technology and we're trying to smash it into the process and make the technology fit the process that we've known and loved for the last 40 years. And when you start going down innovation and digital transformation, that doesn't tend to work very well because you start then having issues along the way. You have to force the technology to do things it doesn't naturally want to do. Okay, so we can flip that. The other part of this then is you're trying to force the people to change their mindset. This people, process, technology thing. People and their mindset changes have to be managed throughout the process. If you want to get adoption on the new technologies, you have to give people a reason to want to change. Why should I do things differently? Why should I use this new technology? Why should I pull my phone out of my pocket and use the app to see my live production rates versus looking at a board hanging over there or looking at my Excel spreadsheet printout? How is that going to make my life better? And it's all part of that conversation, the user adoption and the different ways we can now have conversations across the entirety of the value network to show the value of these technologies is how we're going to make this change come about. And it's going to happen at different rates in different businesses. Different industries have different priorities, different goals. But throughout everything, there's that common people, process, technology. And be mindful of that throughout all of that.